Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, it's an important thing to see the art form of documentary filmmaking push different boundaries, and if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with, once more, as always. My name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, influences, and so very much more in a light and conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, and I'm assuming you do, you're listening to the podcast right now, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to the podcast. You can find us over at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, basically wherever you find your podcasts, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our YouTube channel at In the Seats, which it'd be great if you subscribe to that too. Also, you can find us on social media. You can do that at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, at either In the Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of television, film, video on demand, film festivals, reviews, opinion pieces, lists, well, whatever the hell else we can think of, quite frankly, because we love talking about the moving image, and we love it when you read about it, so please come on by. As you expected, boys and girls, we got even more Hot Docs coverage coming because the festival is running online at hotdocs.ca until May 9th, and we do recommend you go check it out. And on this one, we are talking with the director of Archipelago from director Felix Dufour-Laperriere. And it's an animated exploration of the St. Lawrence River and the thousand islands that are in it, and it's this really sort of historical blend of facts about the region, sort of intermingled with superimposed imagery and a lot of artistry, and it's the kind of thing that kind of reminds me of a Chris Marker film, or it's very experimental. It really does push the boundary of what you think cinema can do, and it's a fantastic piece of art. And if you are checking out anything at Hot Docs, I do recommend you check it out, because it really is one of those films that is a unique visual experience that I can't recommend enough. And but first, I would recommend my talk with Felix, because he was an interesting guy, and this was a good conversation, and I hope you enjoy it, because I know I did. But, obviously, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. And, I love the film. I was really struck by it. And, on one end, it felt very sort of specific and structured, especially through the words, but also the visuals felt so lyrical at the same time. I'm kind of curious. Can you walk me through, I guess, maybe sort of the inspiration for the film, and especially doing it in sort of this kind of structure?
But you're pretty right on your interpretation, or the way you receive it is more or less the way it was conceived. At the beginning, there was a pretty precise and the dialogue between the man and the woman, pretty precise script that was structuring the whole film. But at the beginning of the making itself, it was very free. So I took it. I conceived it myself as a studio film, let's say. So we enter in the studio for 2 years, and we make images, animated images. So I took excerpts from the script. I put on some like image producing devices, little like techniques, some references, and I gave that to my wonderful team of animators. And so it was a very open and free way of making the images from a pretty structured script. And afterward, the editing was make all the way through the production. So it's very free, yet very structured at the very beginning, and very free and open, and let's say intuitive at a lot of other moments.
Well, yeah, and there is it's got these intimate moments, but it's kind of very aware of sort of the history. I grew up in Montreal, so I'm a little familiar with it, but there is this real distinct sense of history about it. How important was that for you to sort of create something that felt artistic, but also as a document at the same time.
The goal, I don't know if it's a goal, but one of the pleasure I had making this film, it's history, or what makes a territory, or what makes a home, or the sense of belonging is something that it's yet collective and intimate, and it's real and fictional, and it's tangible and invented. So Archipelago is a direct produce of that product of that take on history, on what makes a territory, or what makes a document. So we inhibit documents and history, and part of it is something that comes from very intimate places. So in Archipelago, it's a mix of like the history of Montreal or the islands, and history of my grandparents or myself, or totally invented bits, and let's say remodeling of what could have been the history. So for me it's like a travel log in someone's psyche, with its intimate and collective part, I would say.
Okay. All right. I like that. Because I mean, it's one of those things where it feels like, especially the documentary form allows you to be able to sort of use animation and to be able to sort of explore these creative visual ideas. Like if you had tried to do this as maybe sort of a straight narrative, it doesn't feel like it would have worked quite as well. Like I'm kind of curious from your perspective, what is it about documentary that allows, I guess, more freedom inside the art form?
I think there's the in my eyes the most lively form of cinema right now is to be found in the documentary space. It is mixed with fiction. It is constructing something on the very light process of documentary filmmaking, and the very open, and the writing of it, which is very free, and within it, this freedom, there's something, even if the work is partly or majority or partly fictional or totally fictional, the let's say the approach of filmmaking that comes from documentary is very actual and very is crucial, I think, right now. So I feel that, and we see it in documentary festival. There's a lot of very mixed works that are like, yes, constructed all over documents, but also dialogue with fiction, and like reinversing and I would say a lot of the most free and interesting fictional works right now are inspired by the documentary approach of filmmaking. So I guess there's a lightness to it, and I think I don't know how to say this in English, but la pertinence.
Wait, no, I understand.
I think where our field is in a deep crisis, but it's the economics of it,
Right.
that it in crisis. The art form is thriving and lively, and we can see it totally in the documentary field.
How much, how long is sort of the creative process on something like this? Because I mean, especially when you're jumping into animation, it's not going to be something that you're going to do overnight. And I mean, people always misconceive the documentary form as either sort of something pre-planned and pre-discussed and then a lot of research, or you pick up your camera and go. This is very different. I'm like, how long of a process is the entire thing to sort of like from idea to, finished product on screen?
It took, I don't know, 2 or 3 years for the writing, which I was making another film, so it was like part-time 3 years of writing. Once the script, which was a pretty quite precise script, like 54 pages of dialogues with not much indications on the image, but very precise dialogue. That was edited for the film, but that gave us a structure, and that gave us a very precise document to submit to get the financing. And the financing was very quick and it's due to my girlfriend who's telling me, "Oh, you will never finance that in the fiction part of fantasy, never ever. So go full throttle into as a documentary." And it came as a gift. It was financing was very very quick and easy, and we were working on a pretty low budget, so it was simpler to get the financing. But and the making of it was very fun, and it's a film that I made for the pleasure of finding back the kind of energy and the fun I had in my university years while doing studio work, like just making images and like letting them evolve and dialogue with other people. So we had 2 years in the studio, 1 year of real dialogue and fun, and another year of pandemic more or less distance worked. But nevertheless, it was a very fun film to make. We had a lot of pleasure, and I have a wonderful and generous team of animators, women and men that I know from other films. So they were very generous, and they gave a lot of themselves. Like, even if it's a pretty intimate film, and there's a lot of myself and my own personal experience in it. There's a lot of other subjectivities that are like mixing, and that I hope give that film a certain collective collective intuition, let's say.
No, I think it does. But I mean, I will say, to a person, with everyone I've been interviewing for the festival, no one says that doing post-production on Zoom is fun. So I could only imagine. But I mean, obviously it would be great if there were theaters and you could be here, and you're not getting sort of that festival experience in person. But on the flip side of that, this almost feels like a perfect film for the digital space, because it's maybe allowing for more of an audience to take a chance on it. It's one of those things where I'm kind of curious on your perspective on, this is one of those things that it's a film, but it's a piece of art at the same time. Like, how do you sort of draw the line, or or do you have to make a line? Because in my mind, I could see this playing just as well as in a theater as I could seeing it sort of as a part of an exhibition.
It's taking a lot from. I think it's taking a lot of creative strategies from art, but yet I'm attached to the continuity, to the unity of time that comes with cinema. I love that time frame that you give yourself within a precise time frame to a piece of film, and it's rewarding, and I love that
Sure.
immersion. That's for sure. And but it's being a documentary, being an animated film. It's like, and being a pretty personal and author, like an handmade film, where so far from all the economics that we talked about, we're so far from it. So it's a very free piece, and and I hope we tried to make it generous. Like, it's a bit cerebral, it's a bit, like, let's say, demanding, requiring as a film to watch, but it is full of images, full of love and anger, and it's full of a lot of things, I guess. I hope.
Well, I think it is. I mean, in many ways, this feels like a Chris Marker film, where it's taking you on sort of a really interesting and sort of dynamic ride. And I'm kind of curious, for you, are there, like, what kind of influences even got you into this business or got you started? Like, because there is so much going on in your work that I'm just so struck by.
Chris Marker's Sans Soleil, Sunless, I think, if we had to translate the title, is like one of the most important film in my life. Like, there was a before and a after, and I remember there was a Chris Marker retrospective at the Cinémathèque Québécoise in Montreal, and I remember I was working there with my girlfriend, so we've been together for right now 18 years. So we met at the Cinémathèque, and then we were like negotiating, her and I, the screening we could go to within this Chris Marker's retrospective, and she allowed me to go to see Sans Soleil, and it changed my life. Like I went out of the theater, and I felt like something new was happening for me, and I'm still struck by and I've watched it again while making Archipelago, and it's a beautiful film. It's a very precious film for me. Other strong influences, Gilles Groux's work, especially 24 heures ou plus, 24 hours or more, which is a very open, very like militant, yet very open, free, and generous film essay. And I love that piece a lot.
How do you think your film will play without the shared experience? Because obviously, had everything been going right, you'd have a theater full of people. But now people are basically watching it by themselves or with one or two other people at home. How do you think the film plays differently from a crowd to sort of the one-on-one experience?
It's complex. I think it's a film that is, yes, that it's in its form, in its complexity, and especially in its density. It is made to be watched on a big screen, and with a certain like attention that is given to it. Yet the presenting it in quite a couple festivals digitally, it, as you said, it permits a lot more people to see it. And as it is not a film that it is a bit of a requiring film, it's very good for me. I like that a lot of people are giving a try to it, like giving a try to watch it, and it's the returns are a bit polarized, and it's good. And it's and I kind of enjoy that. And I'm still very much attached to the collective experience of cinema.
Oh, me too. Yeah,
very much. And especially I have two kids. Like going to cinema is like a moment out of my life. Like I have two young kids, so I'm just working and doing the dishes, like more or less. Like my whole life is a tight schedule between dishwashing and making films, but or cleaning up the house. But within that tight schedule, when I'm able to have an hour and a half like of deep attention given to a film, it's a very precious moment. So I don't know, I'll speak for myself, but I'll try to make films for that experience to happen to others too, like we work as much as we can to give these objects densities and
for sure,
depth, and so I hope. But I'm totally not against like streaming. I think it's a dangerous game, because the major players are very strong and powerful, and so there's a possibility for us to get invisible online. Yet it permits to reach so many much people. It is kind of an interesting bet, I think.
The cream will rise to the top. It might take a little longer, but the cream will rise to the top. And I mean, I'm kind of curious because, I mean, we mentioned this before. Documentary is a form where you can push boundaries and you can push sort of creative limits. I'm kind of curious from your perspective, as someone who is pushing those boundaries and those limits, can the form go even further, or are we sort of hitting sort of the edge of how we can push documentary as a form?
I think we're just opening a whole new space, because as we said, the economics, the production context is evolving very quickly. And what we're able to do within, like, let's say, a documentary spirit, or a very light setup of making images and building narratives and dealing with subjects, this is very precious and will go on. For example, I'm producing a first feature by Myriam Charles, which is a wonderful fiction. It's more of a fiction filmmaker, experimental fiction filmmaker. Yet her first feature is a documentary, but we're right now shooting in a studio in Montreal, and having like 4 rooms rebuilt with actors and everything, so there's a strong, very important, very fictional spot to it. There another that is more documentary, another that is very taking from the essay or from the experimental like word, and she will build from that. I think a beautiful film, very free and very and deeply touching. So I think it's like it is just starting for me.
Well, you know what? I look forward to anything you're putting your hands on because I love this film and I love talking to you today. And thank you again for the time and thank you again for the film. Congratulations again. And this was great.
Thank you very much for your time too, and thank you very much for having me.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.